Somewhere around 50, I quietly decided this was just what my body did now. Knees, energy, blood's the lot. I'd stopped asking why and started calling it my age. Then 2 years of results landed that didn't agree with me. 13 years of NHS blood tests tracked and reviewed with my GP. At 50, nearly every marker was heading the wrong way. At 52, they weren't. One person's data, but here's what actually moved. The 3 numbers I'd written off as age, what my GP said when the second set come back, and the honest bit, the things that didn't shift, because plenty didn't. Starting with the numbers I'd been ignoring the longest. So here's the version of ageing I'd swallowed whole. After 50, things decline. That's the deal. Blood sugar creeps up, cholesterol creeps up, kidneys get a bit tired, you slow down. And the job from there is management. Keep it steady, keep it slow. Nobody's promising you'll go backwards. Type men's health over 50 into a search bar. Most of what comes back is about managing the slope, not changing direction. And that guidance exists for good reason. Population averages genuinely do decline with age. Kidney function drops, insulin sensitivity drops. If you're a GP looking at 10,000 patients, that curve is real. It isn't a myth, it's an average. I believed it because it fitted. Every year I felt slightly worse. Every set of bloods came back slightly worse. Cause established, case closed, filed under 50. Then there's a researcher at Yale called Morgan Levine. Studies biological ageing. Her work found that health behaviours are the biggest single thing driving how fast you age biologically. Bigger than genetics, bigger than stress. Which when I read it, I sort of didn't quite believe, but it stuck. Because if that's right, the curve I'd accepted wasn't a law, it was an average, with my inputs sitting somewhere inside it. Start with the number I ignored the longest. HbA1c, 3-month average blood sugar. September 2015, 38, normal. October 2016, 40, borderline. 2020, 43.2, pre-diabetic. October 22, 47, 1 point off a diabetes diagnosis, and December 23, 46. That's 8 years of drift, about 1.2% worse every year, like clockwork. Medicated for most of it, seeing my GP regularly, following what I was told. It wasn't just that one either. Creatinine, which is a kidney marker, 100 in 2012, 115 by 2016. October 2016, my EGFR came back at 66. That's stage 2 chronic kidney disease in writing on an NHS printout. Liver enzyme, ALT, 37 in 2012, 69 by 2023. August 2020 was the floor. Blood's the worst it ever been. Pre-diabetic, uric acid up, 6 medications on the go, nothing improving. I remember reading that letter and thinking, well, that's 50 coming, isn't it? Here's the part I'd rather not admit to. Across 11 years, not one of those markers moved in the right direction. Not one. And in all that time, I never asked whether the inputs were wrong. I asked whether the dose was right, which is a different question entirely. And this is where the garden thing lands for me. You can't undo 40 years of weeds overnight. That's true. And anyone telling you otherwise is selling something. But you can start pulling weeds today. Year 1, it'll still look rough. Bare patches, stubborn roots, slow going. But year 2, you don't recognise it. The alternative is keeping the weeds, watching them strangle everything, then saying you're too old to change the garden now. The garden doesn't care how old you are. It responds to inputs. I'd spent 11 years arguing about the fertiliser and never once looked at the soil. Boxing Day, the 26th of December 23, 50 years old, 18 stone, standing in front of a mirror I'd been avoiding. 10 days, water only, that was the start. Then I ate again, properly for a few weeks. Then late January, I did 17 days, water only. And that was the real kickstart. After that, it settled into something I could actually live with. 18 hours fasted, 6-hour eating windows, real food, nothing out of a packet with a cartoon on it. Walking, most days. What I ended up doing gets filled under intermittent fasting for men over 50, which makes it sound a lot tidier than it actually was. Now the important bit, and I'm not going to dress this up, I did not ask permission. I didn't discuss any of it with my GP beforehand. I told him afterwards, once I had blood tests put in front of him. That's what happened, and I'm not recommending it. If you're on medication or if you've got a condition that's a conversation that should go first, not after, first. 17 days without food is not a starting point. It's not a beginner's move, and it isn't the bit that matters. The 18-6 pattern and the food changes are what carried the next 2 years. The first fast was bloody hard, by the way. Days 3 and 4, I was cold, irritable, and fairly convinced that I'd made a stupid decision. Then the numbers started coming back. HbA1c, 46 in December 23, January 25, 40. April 25, 37, optimal. November 25, 37 again, so it held. And that's the lowest reading in a 13-year data set. 14 months to get there, not 6 weeks, 14 months. Creatinine went from 90 to 78 inside a month and was still 80 in January 25. EGFR came up from that 66 to above 90 and it stayed there 20 months. Off the kidney monitoring list altogether. Inflammation, CRP, was 6.2 in January 25, by April 1.0. 84% down in 3 months. And this is the one that actually changed how I think about it. Between February 24 and April 25, 8 separate markers improved at the same time. Blood sugar, inflammation, liver, kidney, lipid ratios, the lot. Across the previous 12 years on medication, none of them had. That's not 8 separate wins. That looks like one thing moving underneath. April 25, I sat with the result and read it twice. Lowest HbA1c in 13 years at 52. Not at 40, at 52. My GP ran another full panel in December 25. All markers optimal. He's now genuinely interested in what the next set looks like, which is not how these appointments used to go. And the honest bit, ferritin, iron stores, January 25, it was 18.4, already below the floor. By April, it was 8.9, 70% below minimum. That's not a wobble, that's an adverse event, and it's logged at 1. It got flagged, it got investigated properly, and it got dealt with. But I want that on the record because a video where everything improves is a video that leaves something out. Something went the wrong way while the rest went right. And that's what actually happened. My GP started looking forward to my blood tests almost as much as I do, which probably says something about the state of the NHS, but also about what's possible when you actually change the inputs. 13 years of data, all of it documented here. Subscribe if you want to follow it. What my data suggests, and it's one person's data, between 50 and 52 on my own panel. The direction reversed, not slowed, reversed. What that suggests to me is that a good chunk of what I'd labelled aging was accumulation, and accumulation responds to inputs in a way that age doesn't. I can't tell you it would happen for you. I can tell you what happened on mine across 13 years of the same NHS tests. Where the conventional view still holds, some decline genuinely is age. Not everything reverses, and my ferritin is proof that things can go backwards while other things go forwards. If you've got a cardiac history, a family history, or you're on medication, this is a conversation to have with your GP, not instead of your GP. Testing an assumption isn't the same as ignoring advice. And if you're not in that conversation yet, there's a thing about garage mechanics I keep coming back to. A good mechanic gets in a car and knows immediately that something's slightly off. The engine sounds a fraction different. The idle isn't right. Something changing that hasn't become a problem yet, but will. Most drivers only notice when the engine falls through the floor. That's the early signal, and your body sends it constantly. The tiredness before the diagnosis, the sleep that changed before you'd call it a problem. If you're noticing changes and you've already filed them under your age, that's the assumption that's worth testing before the medication conversation starts, not after it. And the serious bit, if you're on medication and you're curious about your own numbers, that conversation is with your GP, not instead of it, with it. If you search health transformation over 50, you'll get 1,000 plans and very few receipts. What I've got is the 18-6 pattern that carried most of this, written down properly. It's the 14-day rhythm reset guide. It's free and the link is in the description. And please remember, this is educational content only. It's not medical advice. Never stop or change medication without your GP's supervision. I stopped my own medication on my own initiative and told my GP afterwards. That's not the approach I'm recommending. Speak to your GP before changing your fasting pattern, diet or medication. And next Wednesday, another one that I got wrong.